Your Wyoming LLC paperwork might be filed, but that's not enough to protect your assets. Today, I'm sharing the compliance requirements that actually matter when you end up in front of a judge. As an attorney who's helped thousands of business owners, I'll show you exactly what you need to do to maintain your protection across state lines. Let's break down the 3 key requirements for maintaining your Wyoming LLC when you live out of state, and then I'll explain what qualifies as doing business across state lines.
We've talked about states where you are treated as if you're doing business there, and some people are concerned that, well, am I doing business in Wyoming? Well, the great news is that Wyoming makes it really easy to create a significant connection to the company by only doing a number of things. One is you got to form your company in the state or register to do business there. The other thing you need to do is you have to have a registered agent in the state. And then the other thing, the final thing, is you need a business address in the state. That's it. No in-person visit required. You don't need to have a Wyoming bank account. You don't need to have a physical office in the state. You don't need to have employees there. You don't need a tax ID number. You don't need to do any of those things because Wyoming wants you to form LLCs in the state. It's really easy. One of the things you need for your Wyoming LLC is a registered agent. These are the essentials, okay? This is something crucial many people overlook. Every LLC needs a registered agent in the state of formation. It isn't just a legal requirement. It's a shield against lawsuits and government notices being sent to your home address. While you can technically be your own registered agent, this defeats many of Wyoming's privacy benefits and requires you to maintain a physical address in Wyoming. There's other requirements associated with a registered agent. You need to be there during business hours to accept service of process. That's what the agent, a Wyoming agent or any agent, is supposed to do. If someone wants to sue your company, it's a quid pro quo. You are going to say, if you want to sue my company, it's this easy to do. Go to my registered agent and deliver the documents to them. If you're working as an individual, it's somewhat difficult to serve an individual, to sue them. That's service of process, because who knows where they are, right? Is their address updated? Are we going to their workplace? Suppose they're traveling, so on and so forth. So if you have an LLC in Wyoming, you need that Wyoming registered agent. What makes a good registered agent? Someone who's reliable, someone who has systems in place. If a service of process, if a complaint, if a lawsuit is accepted, does it get to you? How quickly does it get to you? Can they help you understand what that lawsuit means? Some lawsuits, not a big deal. Some can be a big deal. And so a registered agent who can make referrals to, now a registered agent is in most cases not an attorney. They can't provide legal advice, but can they, in the event you need it, make a referral to an attorney in Wyoming, in the state where that registered agent is located, who can assist you? Red flags you need to look for. Does it seem like a fly-by-night operation? How long have they been in business? How many customers are they serving? Sometimes I see, they got 5 companies they're working for. Tough for them to be there during normal business hours if they are not really big enough to support that. So making sure they are big enough to really serve you and make sure that you get any lawsuits or other items quickly. Other things you have to think about is the cost. Hiring an attorney, some people think, well, I'm going to have an attorney be my registered agent, or I'm going to have my accountant be my registered agent. They'll probably be there during those normal business hours, but is that what they do? How quickly will they get that to you? And what's the cost to do it? But chances are, hopefully, over the course of your company's life, it's not going to get sued. Okay, so you shouldn't have to pay a lot for the service. It should be affordable to maintain that registered agent. So think about the cost, balancing the cost out, not the cheapest who maybe can't perform, and not an expensive registered agent who maybe you're overpaying for what you need it, but you may not need to ask for them to provide that service to you. So at LLC Attorney, we serve as that professional registered agent, ensuring a number of different things for you. The documents are received and handled properly. you get them promptly. Your personal address is kept private. It's not going to be listed in the Secretary of State records, even if you live in Wyoming. It makes it easier for you to maintain that compliance, and that's a requirement under Wyoming law. It makes sure that your company stays in good standing with the Secretary of State. If your registered agent isn't around, then your company can be dissolved, administratively dissolved. It'll fall into not good standing. So you have to have an experienced team watching your back. What constitutes doing business in a state? If you're doing business in a state, you should form your LLC there, or you should register your company to do business there. But it's funny because states don't tell you what it means to do business there. They tell you what it means not to do business there. If you go and you read the laws, I've read the laws of almost every state in this area, and they say, okay, if you've got member and manager meetings in a state, you're not doing business there. You got bank accounts in a state, you're not doing business there. You're doing X, you're doing Y, you're doing Z, you're not doing business in the state. Some states are a little bit more restrictive than others, but they don't specifically tell you. I've created some bright line rules. One of them, are you serving the public in person in the state? Okay. If you're serving the public, if you got a taco truck, you know I love tacos. If I got a taco truck, I am definitely doing business in the state where I'm operating that taco truck. Do you have employees in the state? If you've got employees in the state, then you're definitely doing business there. And we think about why these laws exist. The laws exist to protect the citizens of the state from out-of-state businesses, right? If you can come in, harm a citizen of the state, and the only way it could sue you is to go way off to Wyoming, well, that would be a problem for the citizens of the state. So if you could harm a citizen of the state, then it's likely you're doing business in that state. So those are the broad categories. Let's talk about some examples, right? You got a storefront. If there's an open sign on your door, you're doing business in the state. That's easy. That's easy enough, right? Even if you don't have a store, but you're driving your vehicles around the state, you're in construction, you're a contractor, you're doing service on people's homes, you're entering into their homes on a regular basis. That's how you're making your money, physically interacting with the public in a state. You're doing business in that state. There's other things where you could have periodic, infrequent connections with people in a state. Say you're a consultant. You go into the state and you've got clients all over the US. Maybe you go into Florida twice a year. You go into Idaho once a year. You're not typically gonna be treated as doing business in the state because it's not regular. You are interacting with the public, but it's not a regular interaction with the public there. If you're doing e-commerce, you're doing drop shipping, right? And everything comes from somewhere else. It's shipped, it's fulfilled by Amazon. You've got a contact, you bring it in. You're not doing business in your state. The e-commerce, it seems easy enough, right? But in that scenario I laid out there, there's no employees, there's no warehouse, there's not vendors coming to drop off goods. Those sorts of things are likely a trigger for doing business, right? Because someone could be harmed in that state. Think about that. Could some citizen of this state be harmed by what I'm doing there? If I'm a consultant and all I do is Zoom calls all day, no one's gonna be harmed in Ohio through my Zoom call. So that case, I'm not doing business in Ohio. So think about it in that way, and it should be pretty easy to determine if you are doing business in a state or not. If you are doing business in the state, you either form your LLC there. That's not practical if you're doing business in multiple states, right? In that case, you would want to comply by doing a registration there. Foreign entity registration, it's sometimes it's called business qualification. But in that way, you could have one company and you're a door-to-door salesperson. You spend a month in Ohio, you spend a month in Indiana, you spend a month in New York. You would register to do business in all three of those states in that example. So the compliance requirements when you're working across many state lines can be somewhat onerous, but you could still benefit from an LLC formed in your home state or formed in a jurisdiction like Wyoming.
Now that your compliance is sorted, there's one more crucial step: setting up your banking correctly. Watch our next video to learn how to open a bank account for your Wyoming LLC without the common headaches and rejections most owners face.